Hey everybody, I'm Liam. Welcome to the Burns Redo channel. If you are watching the Cigarette Burns, or you watch my channel, which I post very sporadically on, you might notice. I you'll know who I am, but if you don't, I'm Liam. I'll put my link to my actual channel in the description, and I think the link's on the actual page of this the actual channel page. This week for the Burns Redo, we're going to be Shit! I just dropped the box. We're going to be reviewing a series of films that a lot of people have definitely seen. The fourth one's just come out. It's the Scream trilogy. I haven't seen the fourth one, so I can't really refer to that in this review, but I have seen all three of these, and not for a long time, mind, but I've seen them all, and I remember them quite well, actually. The first Scream film basically is about... it's kind of the cliched slasher film setup. A lot of teenagers are shown up dead in this small town, and there is a killer going around stalking the remaining few that are left. And for how cliched it is, it brings something to the horror genre that hadn't been brought before. A sense of humour and a sense of self-parody. And it really does some stuff that other slasher films before this, like the most famous ones like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, and less famous but equally as important in my opinion, Black Christmas. It does something that they never did, and it takes what they did, and it adds humour to it, and it adds a lot more style to it. It kind of spawned a new generation of of parodies and of spoof films, most of them being completely shit, but it still did it. If you watch this and then you watch the first Scary Movie, you can see that the first Scary Movie is pretty much this film, but with jokes in. It is directed by Wes Craven, who obviously directed Nightmare on Elm Street and Last House on the Left, which I've only seen a bit of Last House on the Left, and I couldn't finish it. It was horrible, which I think is the aim he was going for, but it was just the most unpleasant, one of the most unpleasant films I've ever seen. Horror fans are gonna say, "Well, what did you expect?" But I know, but like it was horrible. He also directed Nightmare on Elm Street, which is, I'd say, one of my favourite horror films, but I watched it again quite recently, and I didn't love it as much as I used to. It's still good, don't get me wrong. It's better than Friday the 13th, which quite frankly I don't think is that great. But it isn't what I remember it being. But Scream, which I watched like about a year ago again, and it still holds up. It really does. Mainly because of all the humour and self-referential, like the comedy that comes from all the teenagers banding together and thinking of what rules they can come up with. Like, oh, it feels like we're in a horror film. We've seen loads of horror films. What can we do to try and prevent ourselves from dying? And to be honest, it doesn't really go that well for them, because most of them do end up dying. It's definitely a really good film that it has a lot of entertainment to it. And it's one of those films that you can just get a few friends around, get pissed, order a pizza and watch it and have a really fun night. Scream 2, again directed by Wes Craven. It follows the same main character played by Neve Campbell, Sydney, and after the first one, she thinks that all the murders are done, and she thinks it's all been put in the past. But there seems to be a copycat killer, and it opens up on a scene in the cinema where loads of people are watching a horror film, which is not that much different from the beginning of the first Scream, and two people are killed in the cinema. One of them in front of the screen and in front of the entire audience, and people just think it's all part of the act and they don't do anything about it, but they're actually being murdered. Scream 2 is a lot funnier than the first one. It's got a lot more, like, if I remember correctly, it's got a lot more like real comedy than the first one. It's definitely, like, I'd say it's a bit more fun. I wouldn't say it's as good and as like timeless as the first one, because the first one covered new ground that the second one just couldn't. But it is still a very good film. It is still a very good fun film to watch, especially if you double bill it with the first one, which is something that I've done a few times. Um, yeah, Scream 2 is a very good film. I can't really remember all that much about the second one, but I'm going to get onto the third one, which I can remember even more about. Yeah, Scream 3. Again, directed by Wes Craven. It's got even more comedy to it, and to the degree where Jane Silent Bob actually pop up in it, which I didn't expect the first time I watched it, but it was quite a funny little appearance. They just make an appearance like as people touring around the set of Stab 3, which is where all the murders take place in this one. Um, and again, it has Nev Campbell as Sydney, um, and yeah, the third one, a lot of people hate, even people who like the first two a lot. But I never thought it was bad. It's not. It's not. Well, it isn't brilliant, but it's a lot of fun. The third one is definitely one that you should take with a grain of salt. It's not going to be as good as the first two. I wouldn't expect it to be as good as the first two, but it is definitely worth a watch. Especially if you've watched the first two and if you have the box set, it's definitely not worth just missing out on and not watching it completely. That was my review of the first three Scream films. I still haven't seen the fourth one, but it does look alright. I'm not going to be rushing too much to see it, but I really do enjoy the first three. If you haven't seen them, check them out if you like horror films, but most people have. If you like horror films, then you'll have probably seen them, especially the first one. But yeah, very good trilogy. I really enjoy them. I've seen them quite a few times, and I'd recommend them to pretty much anybody, really. So that's my review of Scream 1, 2 and 3. Come back next week for some more film reviews, and watch everybody else's reviews this week. Yeah, hope you enjoyed my review. See you later.